Constitution, in my view, because there are matters here which may not necessarily be reflected in the Constitution, which are policy matters. But when you are, of course, dealing with areas that call on the reform or amendment to the Constitution, clearly a lot of Kenyans will be forgiven for thinking your main task is to organize for a referendum. But you're doing a lot more than organizing for a referendum, calling this country to order. This is why mkiwa na wazee kama Bishop Lawi, and I talk to him in Kimeru, and he doesn't mind. Yeah? And Peter Njenga, men who have served this country selflessly. And even the young ones like Oleronke, who organizes, you may know this, may not know this, but the gentleman behind the handshake is Ronke in so many ways. Yeah, because he organizes a prayer breakfast. My own spiritual brother and one who I grew with, Major Sei, a very active member of the Baptist Church at that time. And so we know you are the team that God has chosen at this time to do justice for this country. And if you can just bear that in mind, that we are here to urge you to do what is just and what is in the best national interest, you will have acquitted yourselves very well. We honored Mzee Moi just the other day when we escorted him. I remember he used to tell us that nothing is permanent. What is permanent is national interest. And so if you really take that into account, I'm sure you deliver. Because there's a lot of political noise out there. And if you get persuaded by political noise, then you might be distracted. I want to urge, right from the word go, that the steering committee steers this process. And be very bold and direct about it. Knowing you, Mzee Haji, you can even take a bakora if need be and steer the process. And I can tell Kenyans that Mzee Haji was identified at a very young age as a DO somewhere in Kiambu. Mzee Mo was able to say, this will be a national leader. Now you are here sitting too. And I think that's why even had other friends say Mzee Mo was like a giraffe. He could see even leaders when they were very young. So I'm not here to praise you. I'm just here to put some of these things in their perspective. And having done that, then come to your validation. So Chair, I have looked at your document along with my team. We think there's quite a bit that needs to be done. This country is yet again at a crossroads. The level of youth unemployment itself constitutes a national crisis. Well, elsewhere, the youth badge has been seen, the word badge has been seen as a very positive thing, that Africa is probably the youngest continent. Europe is getting very old. But our youth have been jumping across uninvitedly, some of them perishing say, cross the Red Sea, no, not the Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, into Europe, because there's misrule, there's misgovernance, there's lack of opportunity in their own countries. These are African countries. If this was organized, we'll be able to take advantage of the ailing population in Europe and send to Europe men and women who are properly qualified, not ones who are dying in those ships. Actually, latter-day slave trade, because there are people who go get people through Libya and places, from Ethiopia, from Eritrea, in fact, the Horn of Africa countries in particular, and then what happens is they die out there. And the ones who survive are not really welcome. And if you can see the growth of nationalism in Europe, I in fact think it's negative nationalism, and the rightist movements coming up. They're all supposed to say, withhold these Africans, don't allow them to come. And therefore we have a duty to set our countries right. And in my view, Kenya stands as a beacon of hope. But we must get the equation right. Unemployment in this country, I think, is not quantifiable. When I last checked, an attempt was made to say 30%, 40%, but it really, if you look at the numbers, you get worried. The number of students, for instance, joining universities this year, the ones who are going to public universities and even private universities, I think I saw the numbers released by the Minister of Education at just under 200,000, and another a whopping 560,000 plus joining TVETs. One of the positive things we have done is to really bring up these technical training institutes we refer to as TVETs. But what happens after that? No jobs. So how do we create the jobs? My first point, Mr. Chair, is what you refer to on page 6, no, page 13, under shared prosperity. And here I want us really to, you hear strange things from me today. Under shared prosperity, you boldly state, and I don't know whether that was the work of Buster Kimani and Paul Mwangi, who put it as boldly as you did. You start by saying, we need an economic revolution. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, without that revolution, we will not be able to deal with youth unemployment. This is a reality. Coupled with the high levels of corruption in our parastatal bodies, corruption which has really become all pervasive. And I must tell you here, as Wiper Democratic Movement, we took a very principled position. And we said we are going to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta in the fight against corruption. And also in the matter of bringing inclusivity around. And of course, working towards Vision 2030. But you know, if we don't get this right, I fear we are courting not economic revolution, but a social revolution. And before the social revolution catches up with us, I suggest, Mr. Chair, that we do something in order to turn around the economy of this country. If we don't turn around the economy, nothing will be legislated in our National Assembly or the Senate which will be able to turn around this. Therefore, we need to think out of the box. This is why in one of the BBI political forums, I suggested that we need to really now, in order to revolutionize the economy, in terms with your own findings, we need a free port in Mombasa. You know, the thing about a free port is if we move quickly, the whole world will take attention and everybody will want to invest. This is what has happened. The foresightedness of the rulers of the Emirates, led by I think he's always the vice chair of Dubai, and then the other Emirates there, Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. They were able to create out of a desert country a world economic power. I'm not saying we run as fast as Dubai, we may not. But I want to suggest that in order to deal with economic revolution, which we need, some practical steps must be taken out of the ordinary. If we just follow the normal thing, budget, the Minister for Finance comes with his estimates, $1 trillion or something, and I know that my friend Mudavadi must have addressed you on the external debt situation and all of that, and then we have to service all of that and do that, commercial loans, very expensive loans, and then we overburden even the younger ones. I'm not here to deal with that situation today. I just wanted today, ladies and gentlemen, to deal with economic revolution. We have been dragging our feet with regard to even Konza City, which is supposed to be the African Silicon Valley. Just dragging our feet. And then we are churning in these young people, unemployed, a lot of them, even to get a place in the national the defense forces. It's a big achievement. They just want to join the army, the police, and whatever else. That, you cannot call that employment. We really need, therefore, we suggest as WIPA, a task force which should be given time, must be a time-bound commission like in your case, yeah? So that we get our best economists and put them together, economists to put together and give us a formula on how to make Mombasa a free port. That to even cure the current problem created by the standard railway gauge, where they're saying that, that now everybody is forced to put their goods onto the SGR in order to make it feasible to pay for the loans. And therefore, our truck drivers are complaining. Mombasa City is seen to be dying. We want to bring the world to Mombasa and not really to complain about standard railway gauge, because that's a project that will, in good time, prove its worth. But we need to be able to move in that direction. That was my first point.